So I finally got the Supernovas, and holy crap, is it super, if you know what I'm saying. Laugh. The main standout, or the Supernova's strongest point, is its treble extension. It's just so smooth. Like, this is the rare instance where the reviews are not overhyping the treble. They're right, the treble is phenomenal. No peaks or jarring dips, no masking, it's airy and just so stable is the word I would use. Cymbals have the perfect decay to them, never sharp, detailed. There's enough air and reverb, but never fatiguing. And based off memory, the only treble that might be better is the original Symphonium Audio Helios. It's basically just a Supernova, but with more treble and a little bit brighter, but they're both very, very smooth. Now, I honestly don't know how 7 Acoustic managed this with only BAs. Like, even most ESTs don't sound this refined, like the Monarchs or the EJ07M, for example. It doesn't have any BA timbre either, so they must have fine-tuned the shit out of this to get treble this good and this natural, which, you know, makes sense now why they're so hard to get, because it might just take way too long to produce a single unit. In my opinion, it's the best treble under $1,000. It's not energetic or bright, but the dynamics are just so even. For example, songs with high dynamic contrast like Runaway With Me will usually be too jarring because of the sudden shift in the energy from the verse to the chorus. There's a sudden explosion in the chorus, but the Supernova plays it back smoothly. Like, it's just a better variations in terms of treble quality. Sub-bass wise, I would say Variations and other IEMs with a dynamic driver still does the sub-bass better, right? Like the Hype 2, the EJ07M, and the Monarchs, etc. They'll have a deeper rumble, more sub-bass and reverb in the bass decay, you know, more energetic, more engaging. But the low end on the Supernovas are still solid, you know, clean, well separated, punchy, provides enough body to the vocals, but doesn't overcolor the sound and doesn't get in the way of the music. Again, not as slamming, but it does this job. Vocals are also good, not too forward nor congested. They're a tiny bit warm, a little husky from the mid bass and the 1.5k boost. So the Supernovas aren't going to be the sweetest or the cleanest vocal wise, but it does still have a little air from the extended treble. It doesn't prioritize male or female vocals. It does well in both, but just not amazing in neither. And to me, it sits dead in the middle between angelic and warm, so it has a nice balance from both spectrums. I never found the Supernova's vocals to be harsh or shrill sounding. They scale very well with volume actually. Sounds natural and not wonky. Highly recommend them at higher volumes, but I guess the vocals could use more extension and power, so referring back to my Magic 1 breakdown of the vocals, the Supernovas could use more head voice and gain in the 3K region, but that is more of a nitpick. Overall, I would describe the Supernova's vocals as inoffensive but still very enjoyable. They don't have any special sauce, but most people will like them and find them quote-unquote good. I still think both the RS5 and the Monarch Mark IIs are still better in terms of vocal clarity and power and extension, but the Supernovas would fall somewhere around the EJ07M and the Studio 4 level, which is still very, very good. Versus the Moondrop S8, the Supernova is less clinical, not as neutral sounding version of the S8. They're both actually fairly similar, but the S8 does have slightly cleaner separation on busier tracks, where the Supernova has more body in the mid bass and a firmer attack in kick drums and the bass guitars. However, this added boost in the Supernova's low end does mean that the S8 is going to have better clarity and separation and overall feels less close in stage wise, whereas the Supernova can feel a little bit closer in the stage. Treble wise, they're both very similar, but I think the Supernova is more even in the extension since there are more dips in the S8. On the other hand, the S8 does have more vocal gain and extension to the vocals, but in my opinion, it's a little bit too clinical in its case because of the S8's leaner mid bass. So I think this added gain would have worked very well to cut through the Supernova's low end, and personally I would still take the Supernova because it's just more musical, not as clinical, and a little bit more textured in the treble and just more enjoyable for me personally. But versus the Darksaber, the Supernova is brighter, it's a lot more energetic because of, you know, the explosion, whereas the Darksaber is darker sounding, and the glowing lights here are actually from the stars that were left over after I used it to split a black hole, which is why, you know, the blade is black. Okay, but seriously, I canceled my Darksaber order because of Moondrop's QC issues and, you know, the plates cracking, the pins breaking, and they won't replace a $800 set under warranty. So I'm not gonna risk it, especially considering how lucky I am when it comes to imbalances, you know, with the Diva and the Gaia. So this I can return, but I don't think they're gonna let me return the Supernovas. At least they won't probably refund me, right? But yeah, compared to the original EJ07s, these also have better staging, more, I guess, 3D holographic presentation, whatever you want to call it. And the sub bass is actually more rumblier on the EJs because it's using a dynamic driver. But in terms of overall separation, they're fairly similar, with the Supernovas being a little bit more airier where the EJs are darker. And because they're darker, you can crank these up like a lot more, and they're still my favorite in terms of just pure immersion. They just take you on like a whole different journey, right? Overall, these are still my favorite. I would still take the original EJ07s, but compared to the kind of lava edition, the EJ07M, EJ07M KL is gonna have better sub bass, very textured, very rumbly, and overall in terms of like as an all-rounder, I think these are more engaging. The Supernovas are still smoother in the treble and just overall dynamics, more refined than the kind of lava edition, but it does have better bass than the, you know, Supernovas, and they are cheaper, so you can probably get these for around like 500 non-risen one. The risen ones are probably like a lot more, right? Overall, if your library is more like, you know, pop, hip-hop, J-pop, K-pop, you know, all the pops, then the EJ07Ms are gonna be better because of the sub bass as well as the better vocal texture, in my opinion. The vocals on the Supernovas can be a little bit too smooth sometimes, so again, very depending on what you're looking for. But versus the Our Neon Pro, I actually like the Our Neon Pro more than the Supernovas in certain scenarios. For example, the low end feels firmer and has more tactility to the notes. Even though it's an alt-BA set, it sounds really, really good, especially with the bass switch on, but even off, the Neon Pro still feels more weighted and just fuller in the sound. The separation is also a little cleaner on the Neon Pros with the bass switch off, not by much, but it is a little bit better, and the imaging is also slightly sharper as well. Now, the Supernova is still smoother with more air, and vocals on the Neon Pros can get a bit shouty when you crank it up, but because the Supernova is so smooth, it can come off as too safe sometimes. Whereas Neon Pro's firmer low end and, you know, slightly better imaging, separation, and more forward vocals creates more engagement with the music. Which is why at mid volume I would still pick the Neon Pro, and at higher volumes I would take the Supernova since it scales better and is more immersive with the music. Versus the Monarchs, on the other hand, the Mark II is still better in terms of vocal clarity and detail, and the Mark IIIs are better in terms of bass texture and slap, but the Supernovas have them beat when it comes to the dynamics, the smoothness, and the treble quality. Again, super smooth, and all three are very similar resolution wise. So overall, I would say the Mark IIIs are still the best all-rounder for most people. If your library is mainly pop, EDM, hip-hop, R&B, then the Mark IIIs are more energetic and fun, since the Supernova is going to lack that engaging factor. It's also a bit tricky because the Supernovas aren't a treble head sight either. Like, don't get me wrong, the treble quality is fantastic, but it's not bright or super sparkly, so it's harder to pick a specific niche for the Supernovas. I would say if you want an endgame balanced IEM, you know, that isn't clinical sounding like the S8, then get these Supernovas. It doesn't specialize in anything per se, but it pretty much works with every genre I threw at it, just not as fun as the Neon Pros or the Mark IIIs. It's obviously still a great IEM, not quite a kilobuck killer since it doesn't have any special sauce or, you know, crazy technical performance like the Gaia or the, you know, Prestige LTD, but if you want that endgame refinement without having to sell your kidneys, then these are it. I just wish they made more of these and isn't like super hard to get. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Okay, but side note, this is actually pretty cool. Like, the build quality is like very sturdy. This is metal and it's pretty hefty, and you know, the lights are pretty cool. It's like got an LED gamer thing, and then like it makes a sound when you swing it. It's just like look at that. This Darksaber I would recommend, but not the other one.